Okay.
So my name is Stella Obedi, and I am a mixed media artist. I was born in Tanzania, and then I moved to Canada when I was 9 years old. So I've been living here for over like 10 years or maximum. I don't know, a lot, maybe 15 max. And so these are my works for thesis, for drawing and painting at OCADU. All the pieces are discussing the theme of diaspora, and my thesis work is titled Diaspora and Negotiation of Identities. And the reason I put negotiation is because I'm negotiating whether I identify as being Tanzanian or Canadian, since I've been like separated from my Tanzanian identity and culture over the years. And then Canada is very culturally diverse, and a lot of people here are not truly Canadian, they're immigrants. And even when Canada was created, when they signed the Confederation, 3 different identities came together to form one nation. And so a lot of people really do kind of veer towards saying Canada is multicultural and not one nation identity. And that is the whole theme of my works. And each piece has a different narrative and explores different themes. The first one would be me trying to reconnect back to my younger self who knows my Tanzanian identity, and like try to get back all that knowledge that I lost. And the images in the background are all historical archive images from Tanzanian history. And I basically got them printed with an inkjet printer on this large paper. And then I used acrylic paint to do a kind of a wash so that it kind of gives an impression or a metaphor for newspaper and like archived images. And then I would take mixed media such as colored pencil, charcoal, graphite, and then I added even smaller details into the figures and like objects in the background and leaves. For me, I just wanted to play around also with the fabric and the history of colonial, basically the colonial history of how these fabrics ended up in Tanzania or even in Africa in general, and then also how I relate to them and how it's usually attached to being African versus it's technically a colonial thing that happened within Africa and we adopted it as our own.
Right.
And also I just basically found maybe like Yinka Shinobre, his work is very, very inspirational to me, as well as Njideka Akunyili Crosby. Her work was very inspirational for me to even just like come up with this idea. And I chose to basically glue onto the fabric onto the figures as a way to show my own Tanzanian identity and how some people always keep small things from their own culture to preserve it even when they move on, such as food, clothing, annual traditions, things like that. And I chose fabric as one. I also added food as well. And then for my Canadian identity, used the maple leaves, who ironically won the 7th game, and I didn't realize because I had made this in March,
right?
And I didn't know they were going to win in the games that they were playing. Yeah. And that one, the maple leaves, is obviously associated with like Canadian identity,
right? And
also me learning about different cultures as well in Canada, and like the community I grew up in, it has a lot of immigrants. Over the years, it's been becoming more and more cultural diverse, and I got introduced to all these cultures over the years of living there because I arrived here when I was 9, and so I went through elementary school, middle school, and high school, and I met so many various cultures, people from various countries, and it was beautiful to just learn about their culture and like integrate my own identity into it. And we all just come together at a table, basically. That's kind of like what it is with food. You bring together multiple different cultures' foods and you all share a little piece and everybody takes away what they want to take, and you all learn to adopt to be like one together. Yeah. So yeah, that's what my work is about. If you want to reach me, I have Instagram. My name on Instagram is called artist._.stella.
Great.
And also my website is Stella Obedi, like stella-obedi.format.com.
Great.
And I will also be at the Nathan Phillips Square at the Toronto Outdoor Art Fair in July. If you want to see more of my work, I will be making more works like this on paper. If you want to purchase it, if you want to collect it, or if you just want to show my work at a gallery space, you can always reach out to me by email, messaging, and also either phone number as well. It's a pleasure to.
Fantastic. You didn't. I didn't have to ask any questions because you're like prompt people, and you're like, no. You're covering all the base. Because I was going to ask you, are you working on anything else, any future work? And so the only thing I'll ask you, along with everything you just said, is, and would you say a lot of the other work that you have or that you're working on is similar themes, or are there other things you're exploring?
Over the past 2 semesters of my final year, one of my professors helped me to kind of pinpoint what I want to do later on, and I started kind of going to the political history of Tanzania and looking at the first female president. So I've been making some works that are a little bit more political and looking at how people view politicians and the standards they hold them up to. I also want to maybe look into the tourism history in Tanzania, a lot of Tanzanian history. I want to also bring it into Canadian history, kind of look at how they correlate the things that are similar and different, and just I want to experiment basically with fabric as well.
Wonderful.
And continue making mixed media pieces. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of going towards for the near future. Yeah.
No, it's so interesting when you're talking about the fabric, because even I used to buy a lot of the fabric when I wanted to connect with my African identity, and then I'm learning that a lot of the wax fabrics from Holland, and there's a whole, and more things are now being told about the history of it, right? That it's not necessarily, it's become Africanized, but it's not originally. And I used to think, the African people created this,
I
right?
know, me too.
Right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I know now though that some of the companies are hiring African folks to design the patterns, and I was at the Africa Fashion exhibition in Brooklyn Museum in this last summer, and there was a wonderful section of it where these folks were actually showing the fabrics that African people create and how all of those prints and patterns have messages behind them. They have meaning.
They do. They tell stories and narratives, maybe about their leadership in the community, if they're political leader, or if they serve certain roles within the community. Each fabric, once you wear it, it has its own story. And so I was concerned that over the years it's just lost its meaning, and now these are printed in polyester in China, and but it also adds to the idea of diaspora and how we adopt with the ways technology and things change, and it affects how we view certain things in history and cultures and stuff like that.
Well, it's like another artist I just talked to who is exploring the whole idea of the mass and the carnivals in Trinidad, right? That heritage, which is also now has traveled all over the world, right?
Yeah.
But really, at the end of the day, because of our African heritage from the Caribbean, a lot of that has heritage in Africa, right? The idea of mass, the idea of costume, the idea of, carnival, playing, right? You see it back in rituals that existed through time immemorial on the continent, right? So it's an interesting thing about how when things spread, as you said, transform in different kind of ways, it's not always a horrible thing, but it's about she also said the same thing about, the only thing is if it loses its connection to the legacy and the history, but it seems like it's something divorced from when it actually is connected, right? So it's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
And I'm looking forward to a lot of people contacting you to exhibit and doing various things, right? Yeah, because there's a number of galleries now, about the Nia Arts Center here in Toronto?
No, sorry.
There's Nia Arts, and there's also BAND, which is the Black Arts Artists in Dialogue, and they have actually Nia just opened a big brand new space, and BAND is working on a brand new space as well, so hopefully...
Yeah, I might reach out to them and see.
Well, I'll connect with you on Instagram and connect you folks, because I think your work is amazing.
Thank you so much.
It's amazing.
It's a pleasure.
Amazing. Thank you for talking to me.
Of course.
Now I'm going to explore it so they can see it. Look at this. First of all, the size of it. Sorry. And then you get sort of the different vignettes. The whole thing about the charcoal and the crayons. And then the background. I love that sort of historical contextualizing, situating. This is great.
Assuming that I knew, I made that
And again, some of the historical things in the background. Mary. Brilliant, brilliant. That's so brilliant.
It was a lot of researching.
Yeah.
I was looking
Yeah,
at
I bet.
essays and things like that.
Well, I can tell you put a lot of yourself into it.
Yes, it did come off a piece I did that was about me like forgetting about my family history, and it was me sitting down and looking at these photos of me from when I was really, really young, and like trying to piece them back together since they were ripping apart. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're good. It's a good angle. And the conversation is great.